That Great Business Show, Ireland's best business podcast.
Welcome to episode 133 of That Great Business Show, posting on the 31st of March 2023. I am Conor O'Moran, Fortistach. Coming up, a curious combo of business tips, insights and opportunities, all in a commute or walk-friendly 45 minutes thanks to donedeal.ie. We have two people who want to take the E out of Irish whiskey, or is it that they want to put the E back into American whiskey? And every business grows and moves on, and we have a founder and the man who's taking over from him. We'll ask what letting go and taking a grip feels like. And thanks to all of you who have so far responded to our survey. It's great that most of you like what you hear and how we package it, but business never sleeps. So if there is something that bugs you about the show, please do tell us at thatgreatbusinessshow.com. All our business tips and insights are brought to you thanks to our sponsor, Done Deal Motors. It's the only place to go for your new or second-hand motor, all from the convenience of your smartphone.
Done Deal Motors is home to Ireland's largest range of new and premium used cars. That's why you'll find cars from Audi and BMW dealerships on Done Deal. Are you looking for a 7-seater to accommodate your growing family? Maybe you're after a luxury saloon to make a statement. We have the car for you. You'll also find Ireland's largest range of electric cars to help you make the switch. Visit donedeal.ie today to start the search for your next car.
Viscosity. When you shave, you want the highest viscosity because it helps the blade run smoother. De facto, the world's best shaving oil, has incredible viscosity. That's why De facto leaves your face, underarms or legs nick-free. Higher viscosity makes blades last longer. De facto is the best for your skin and your pocket. DeFactoShave.com.
All That Great Business Show advertisers are Team GBS approved. Back them.
We featured quite a few drinks companies on That Great Business Show, and of course we had the big daddy of them all, John Teeling, on with us on episode 21. Hard to believe that was a full 2 years ago. On this episode, 133, I'm delighted to be joined by Brian Nation, one-time master distiller with Irish Distillers. And from Minnesota, USA, we have Patrick O'Shaughnessy, whose great-granddaddy hailed from Gort in County Galway, and who has gone to doing big things in Minneapolis, like setting up his own distillery and enticing Brian Nation to join him in Minnesota, where they are now producing a new type of Irish-American whiskey. Patrick, Brian, welcome to That Great Business Show.
It's great to be here. Thanks a million for having us.
And that is the voice of Brian Nation from Cork, as if anybody could mistake it.
As if you couldn't, yeah, exactly, as if you'd never guess.
Your opener for 10 is E. Your whiskey has an E in it. You're making it kind of in Minnesota because you're also putting Irish whiskey into it. I'm confused. Does it have an E? Does it not have an E? Or what in the name of E are you doing?
Well, I can guarantee you all of our whiskies have an E in it. And it's E for excellence as well. So we
It's going to be one of those interviews.
It's going to be one of those interviews.
Patrick, you're very, very welcome to Ireland, obviously.
Oh, thank you.
And one of the things that I've learned about you, forget about your whiskey. Your great-granddad? No, your who bought Killarney National Park?
My great-grandfather, I.A. Ignatius Aloysius O'Shaughnessy, bought, I think, 5,000 to 6,000 acres of Killarney National Park. Didn't want to see it developed and wanted to be a treasure of Ireland like it is today as a national park. So kind of an interesting history. And he got to become an honorary citizen, something we're proud of as Irish Americans.
Well done him, because it is not just beautiful, it is fabulous. I mean, it's just incredible down there. Oh, what a lovely legacy to have. And now you are trying to re-embed yourself into the Irish psyche, which I'll leave it open to the pair of you. Is this a marketing operation to get a bit of Irish into America? Or is it a bit of, what is the dynamic? What are you trying to sell? It's a whiskey. obviously. And obviously, Brian, you've got a lot of creds in the whiskey area. You didn't become the numero uno in Irish distillers by not knowing your stuff.
Yeah, I suppose when you talk about Keeper's Heart to Irish and American whiskey, what we're really trying to showcase is the best of both Irish and American distilling traditions, and showing that the two styles of whiskey can actually be blended in a way where you get this extra dimension of flavour and taste that you wouldn't get in 100% Irish whiskey or 100% American whiskey. So for us, it's not so much a marketing gimmick, it's actually showcasing that there's a fantastic taste profile that can be developed by bringing these two whiskey styles together.
But at the end of the day, there are many, many, many whiskey brands, and they're developing all the time, and you do have to have your something special, your standout. And is that it, that you are bringing the two traditions together? Is that your standout?
Absolutely, in terms of the flavour that the actual combination and the blending actually brings, really does showcase the standout moments when you taste that whiskey. And I think it's one of the beauties that we've seen when we launch in America and when we launch in Ireland, is that as people get the chance to taste the whiskey, they do appreciate that impact of flavour and that extra dimension of flavour.
That, of course, is what you're going to say, but you know as well, you're based in the States. You know what they put into your beautiful whiskey that you've just spent years blending and all the rest. When a Coca-Cola hits your whiskey, does it matter anything of what it tastes like?
Take a deep breath. Actually, one of the things that when we were putting these whiskies together actually was we wanted to talk about having these whiskies as being versatile, right? And at the end of the day, the way a person drinks their whiskey and enjoys their whiskey is the way they want to do it. I don't think we should prescribe to anybody the way they should drink their whiskies. I mean, from a versatility point of view, what I can tell you is that the whiskies that we have, the Keeper's Heart Irish Plus American and the Irish Plus Bourbon, they're actually great neat on the rocks, but they're also fantastic in cocktails. And if you want to mix it with Coke, it tastes great too.
Patrick, tell me, how did you manage to get this lad? I know the backstory is that, did you get him on LinkedIn first of all?
I did. I wrote him on LinkedIn, taking a shot in the dark, never thinking he'd actually write me back.
We are huge proponents of LinkedIn for business, and you are now living proof that you got... but you did. I mean, to be fair, Brian Nation, you are really well regarded in the industry, and you have decamped to Minnesota. And I read about you. You said it's very cold over there.
Oh, that's an understatement.
But you managed to get him, Patrick.
Well, the first thing I did was I looked at the rain pattern in Cork, and I knew that if I could get him out of the rain, that was going to be a step in the right direction. No, in all seriousness, I think it came down to people. I reached out to LinkedIn. Brian kindly wrote me back. We had a nice chat. I told him maybe, hey, Brian, I'll call you for a drink in 3 months when I'm in Ireland. And then the call had gone on for like an hour and a half. It had gone so well. I immediately jumped off the phone, called my family. I was like, we need to be in Ireland in 2 days. And then I think I shocked Brian by saying, hey, we'll be there in 2 days to see you. Would you bring out your wife? Because I knew who was really going to make the decision. I hope Brian's heart was in it, and I think it was. But I also know my wife makes all the big decisions in our family. So we went out that night. It became a 5-hour dinner. We never talked whiskey at all. And it was just kind of, the story of growing up, our kids, our parents, what do we care about? And it just was kind of a magic evening where you've never found somebody like there on the spot that you felt like, long lost friends just immediately. And, there was no business plan. It really came down to like people liking each other.
Taking the master distiller from Jemison, from Middleton and all, you had to write a big check.
Brian's priceless, so I don't know.
That's my very point. In footballing terms, like you're Lionel Messi or Ronaldo. So trying to get him over.
Get out the door here in a second.
But you know what I'm saying.
Yeah. I know what's going to happen after I leave this room. He's going to be like, that check needs to be. You just put me in the Ronaldo class.
So what is your interest, Patrick, in having a whiskey brand? Because your real business is venture capital.
Yeah, I mean, my real interest really, it came down to a few things, I think. One, this was something that our family could share. We're a tight-knit family, but we're a big family.
But you could have You could have bought a national park. You could have bought something else. Why a whiskey?
But when you see the bottle in people's hands in a glass, it's just, there's a joy. And when we researched whiskey, we loved kind of the iconic history of Irish whiskey. We liked the tie to our heritage. We quickly realized as we were learning about it that there was just a passion and a joy and a camaraderie in the whiskey community. And then, of course, like we've had so many good times as a family with a glass, kind of swirling in our hands, and to see joy and happiness. I think it really comes to life through whiskey. And so that just gave us the spark to want to do it.
And you have brought with you your cousin, isn't that right?
Yeah, I've been working with my cousin, Michael O'Shaughnessy, for over 20 plus years. And I guess we cooked this up together and been off to the races with great partners like Brian.
But before you got to Brian, are you sitting, like Minnesota is not famous for being particularly Irish. I mean, maybe I'm wrong.
Ooh, St. Paul, Minnesota would be very big.
Is that a
big Irish community?
Okay,
Archbishop John Ireland was making in St. Paul, was really going out of his way to bring folks over from Ireland into St. Paul. I think we might have one of the largest St. Patrick's Day. We just had a St. Patrick's Day parade. I think there were like over 30,000 people, and it's all the Irish community coming out.
In 30 years.
Okay,
but
well, I stand corrected. Not for the first time, I can tell you. but you're back to you and your cousin. I go back to the idea that you could have chosen anything. You could have chosen a brewery. There's a brewery actually next door to your distillery, isn't there?
Sure. Surly Brewing.
Surly Brewing. Do you see? I've done my little bit of homework. That doesn't belong to you, does it?
No, definitely not.
But you could have gone for a brewery, or you could have gone for anything else. Whiskey.
Like I said, it was just kind of a labor of love. We started researching it, and as we learned the history and kind of the stories and the passion, it's nuts and bolts businesses aren't very exciting, but whiskey kind of stirs the imagination.
But you're buying the Irish part, you're buying it from John Teeling up in Great Northern, and are you then shipping that over to Minnesota?
Yeah, we're as you said.
How do you ship a ton load of whiskey as well?
First, it's Irish whiskeys that sits here in the country. So it's aged, it's resting and aging in barrels. And when it's ready, you can never ship a barrel across. Otherwise, it would no longer be Irish whiskey.
These are the little tricks that I love learning.
So it comes out into inert containers, like IBCs, kind of plastic totes, if you will, and then we ship them across to our facility in Minnesota.
Put that into English for me. What's a plastic tote and an IBC?
It's basically a plastic container that stores 1,000 litres of liquid.
And that goes presumably onto a ship.
Yes. Yeah.
And you're shipped over,
we ship it over.
Literally, onto presumably a choo-choo train.
Yeah.
And how many of these do you ship? I mean...
Well, we're probably doing 3 or 4 shipments a year, and each time a shipment will come across, it's about 36 totes or 36 IBCs. So it's quite an intense process.
And then, because again, I've been doing my homework, the problem with success, and I assume that you will have success with this because you've got all the right things, you then have to ship more and ship more and ship more, to a point where sometimes that you can run out of stock. And the worst thing in business is to have demand and not being able to meet it.
Exactly. So one of the lucky things that we have is a great relationship with Great Northern Distillery, where we're actually laying down stocks to meet the demand. And
so is everybody else.
So exactly. So effectively, we have laid down contracts where we have new mixed spirit being laid down every year for us to meet the expected forecasted demand, but also on top of that, because you have to build for the future. So we've done that with both Great Northern Distillery and also with MGP in Indiana for the American whiskey. And I think that in itself, having those relationships and being able to build those relationships, has actually given us the confidence to feel that we have sufficient stocks to supply our whiskey to meet the demands that we expect.
And where would that demand be? Is that New York, or do you go nationwide? Because there's another problem with a big area.
It's a massive area. Look, I mean, we didn't even expect in year 1 to launch more than 5 states. But because
which states are you into?
So we're actually in 18 states in our first year. So we started in the Midwest, where we obviously wanted to own our own area around Minnesota, Illinois, the Dakotas, Wisconsin. But we also went to Wichita or Kansas. We went to Colorado, which is where our family
is.
New
also
Jersey,
indexes
New
high
York,
to whiskey.
you know, all of these locations. And it just kept on growing and growing. And we were kind of going, okay, maybe we need to just put the foot on the brake a little bit, because you want to make sure that when you're launching in markets, that you're getting the exposure you want, and that we're able to actually keep resourcing the feet on the street to grow the brand. Because there's no point in going into a state just in a crew drive, do all of this big pizzazz around the brand, and then walk out of it and hope that the distributor will just do it all for you. So we actually put the foot on the pedal, on the brake a little bit, and said to ourselves, for 2023, we're going to remain in those 18 states, because we also have direct to consumers, which brings us to almost 40 states anyway. And we'll grow these wider, and then in 2024 move towards the 52 states again.
And then you're also selling into Ireland.
Yes.
Because you're launching. This is why you're here. Tell the world that you're here.
Yeah.
And you have chosen, from what I could see, you're not with the big multiples here yet, are you?
No, we've come in through Barry and Fitzwilliam, and you know, ultimately we'd like to be in the super values and the Dunn stores and Tesco's at some point. But you know, you have to start somewhere. Of course, I haven't. No. How could I forget Dunn stores and super value? Huh?
And
my biggest problem.
You in O'Brien's?
Yes, yeah.
You are in O'Brien's?
Yeah.
Okay.
And basically, like we've done launches all week now across Cork and stuff like that, and we're up here in Dublin, and then we're moving towards Galway and Killarney, and then back to Cork.
You already own Killarney.
We'll see now when we go down there.
I think that's an open goal for you there. So then you've done Ireland, or you will have done Ireland. You'll have done this 18 states or whatever number. What about the world?
Well, we've got a lot in front of us, just as we are in the States. As you said, it's a big country, and we'll continue to grow that out, kind of reach for national expansion in the next few years. This is really special for us to be here in Ireland. It really is a homecoming. It's where our journey together started. It's where our, mine and Brian's and the families, and it's where our heritage is. So Ireland is near and dear to our hearts. So we're going to kind of focus all of our love, passion, and energy into Ireland for the next year. I think, we're a small, humble, kind of but underdog, scrappy startup looking with kind of an eye to the future. So at some point, you can for sure see us beyond Ireland, but it might be a year or two before we.
But world domination is something that you're probably.
Well, that's more in Brian's camp than mine. I am humble.
But of course, Brian has. Well, I mean, obviously the Jameson story is incredible from a turnaround. But there seems to be a massive demand for whiskey these days, driven by fashion or what?
Well, I think one of the things, I'll let Brian speak to kind of what he thinks is driving it, but I think one of the things that drives us to the idea of national in America, here in Ireland, and then looking beyond to further countries is that, in the whiskey space, it's hard to find kind of an open blank space, an open canvas where nobody is competitively there. Then when you ask the question, like, what excites you at a business level, one of the things I think we took stock of, and we believe it's there at a consumer level with a high desire for, is innovation, something that's truly new and different. Nobody had made an Irish-American blend in over 90 years. Nobody in America, Tulnewa is the first to make an American single pot still, but we're kind of right there on their heels. That's a total new innovation. Brian's laying down the first world's triple distilled rye, first 100% triple distilled bourbon. I think on a global community of whiskey fans, getting something new and different kind of brings you to a national or an international audience.
I was also reading Minnesota was the center of whiskey in the U.S. Isn't that correct?
Well,
and then Prohibition did for it once upon a time. It's I've obviously been doing too much homework. There must have been a huge tradition there. No?
There is, like, in terms of distilling in Minnesota, there's a number of different distilleries set up, all with their own different niches and all different ideas. And one of the things that we have kind of set as a vision for ourselves is to actually put Minnesota back on the world whiskey map as well. And, you know, you don't do that on your own. You do that in partnership with other distilleries around the area. And we've got good relationships with our friends and partners in the other distilleries. And what I love about this business is that this business has a great ability for us to build relationships. You compete at the shelf, but once you step back from the shelf, the relationships that you build in this business are fantastic and long-standing as well.
Patrick, hard question for you. When you were on the phone first time to Brian, he said something like, we nearly needed to have cue cards. Did you understand a word of what he was saying?
He still needs them.
Thankfully, the accent wasn't too tough to decipher.
I'm laughing to myself. You're rattling off, Brian, all the states in the US that you are now so familiar with, but with the thickest Cork
unbelievable, yeah. And I don't think I'll ever lose it, and I hope I don't either.
I think it's gotten heavier since we came back to Ireland. He's showing off a little back in his hometown. Yeah.
Does anybody in your distillery know what he's talking about?
As I say, I do walk around with cue cards. Yeah.
If they don't, they're doing a good job intuiting it.
How much, this is a broad question, how much is the whiskey business in general, not just yours, a marketing exercise nowadays? That you just have to find that niche and...
I think there's definitely a big element of it. I think one of what we're seeing a lot is people don't just talk about whiskey now for the liquid inside the bottle. They want to know the story. They want to know the authenticity behind it. They want total honesty and transparency about what you're doing, whether you're distilling it yourself, whether you're blending it, whether you're just contract bringing in distillate and doing that. So I think for us, what we find is that as long as you're open and honest and transparent, and you do have, obviously when they taste it, it needs to taste good as well. I think you're seeing a lot more interest from people in your story, and they want to know more. They want to get behind the people. They want to get behind the brand. And obviously marketing plays a big role in that. Social media, marketing through social media gives a bigger reach. But one of the things that we find is one of the strongest ways of getting people to like our whiskey is to actually do a sampling and taste it and come in, because it is different.
So where will be the next types of blends of whiskey, do you think? Like as I understand it, what you're doing at the moment is experimenting.
Yeah, it's innovation. I mean, the way we look at it is that if you look at the 3 whiskies that we're actually producing at the distillery at this moment in time, they'll actually be standalone whiskies. So they will be a triple pot distilled rye, a triple pot distilled bourbon, and an American single pot still.
And what about blends, duo blends, if I can call them that? Can you put a bit of bourbon into a whiskey, or?
Yeah, so ultimately, what you see there is that's that blend of Irish pot still, Irish grain, and American rye. We also have the Irish pot still, Irish grain, and bourbon. And, those whiskies, people are kind of beginning to look and kind of, is it a gimmick? First of all, is it a gimmick? When they
That's
taste
really what
it,
I wanted to ask, but
yeah.
it was too kind.
I totally understand it, because when you do start to release something like this, the first question people do ask is, this is just a marketing gimmick. There's no, is it going to be any different? The actual answer is in the tasting, and people do see that extra dimension of flavour, that extra dimension of complexity that they wouldn't get in 100% Irish or 100% American. So it does actually work.
And you both are familiar with the Dr. John Teeling story, and that he eventually sold out. So I presume at some stage, and particularly Patrick, with wearing your VC hat, this is primed for flipping, not now, but maybe in 10 years' time.
Well, I think one, I got to go back to John Teeling. John Teeling was the first person I ever met within the Irish whiskey community. My car broke down, so John actually had to give me a ride.
Pure entertainment, isn't he? He's just
he's a total character.
But can I just qualify something? Patrick just said there his car broke down. he broke his car. He was trying to drive with in gear stick.
I'm used to an automatic, obviously, from the States.
So my car broke down is a little bit.
So I know John Teeling. Really appreciate all the support he's been giving us from Great Northern. Look, I mean, the whiskey space is ultimately there are, exit opportunities, and some of those opportunities can be quite large and have potential appeal. But, this is year one for us, or just embarking almost towards year two now. So we're happy to just kind of be doing our thing as a startup, build the business, grow the business, kind of take that on our own shoulders. And then, we'll see where, 7-10 years down the road, what might happen.
What you don't know is I was a stockbroker once. I know these guys. They haven't got that vision of 5 or 6 or 7 years. 2 years, right offer, they're gone.
you know venture capital is better than I do.
That's what I'm telling you.
I'm only a poor innocent Irish guy.
I can tell you one thing. In our venture portfolio, as a family, I think we've probably invested, in the venture funds, over 50 companies, and the average lifespan of a venture investment is 7 to 10 years, and nothing happens overnight. You just build a business, keep your head down, and hopefully the world will find you one day.
2 final questions. I always have final questions because then I go off on a little tangent. I think that's priced at about €45 a bottle, am I right?
It's actually €50 on
50.
Chef. Both
okay.
the Irish American
what's the
and Irish
thinking about that? I mean, you could have gone 40, you could have gone 60. Or, as I see with Green Spot, which you're directly involved in, is that up at 100 quid or something now?
Depends. In the finishes might be up at 100 quid. I don't think the regular Green Spot would be. I think for us, one of the things is we wanted to make the whiskey accessible from a versatility point of view as well. And when you're using it in cocktails, you want to make sure that from a pricing point of view...
You've just proven my point. Cocktails, what's the point?
Not at all.
You've just spent all your brilliance producing that, and then you chuck in...
No, you see, this is where brands nowadays have to be actually able to perform, because from a versatility point of view, you need to be able to be a whiskey and still be the hero in a cocktail. You're right, some cocktails and some whiskies get lost in the cocktail. What we've shown with Keeper's Heart Irish Plus American and Irish Plus Bourbon is
I love the way
cocktail.
you get the name in all the time.
Yeah.
You're well trained. Do you not feel like St. Jameson or something like that?
Love it. What we try to showcase is that, when you have a whiskey that has the best of, the richness of an Irish pot still and the spiciness of a rye, put it in a cocktail like an old fashioned and still see those flavours mingle well with the syrups and the bitters. So it does work.
I'd say your family were storytellers back in the days. I'm listening to you. My final question, because we have to wrap it up, is who would both of you separately, Patrick to start with, hire in a heartbeat?
All right, well, my first one's going to have to be Brian's son, Brian Nation. The amount of excitement, interest, and passion that Brian, he wants to follow in his father's footsteps.
What age is Brian?
He's 8.
He wants to follow in his father. He's got big ambitions for an 8-year-old. He wants to follow in his father's footsteps as master distiller, but he has a brain that was built for marketing. And we'll be walking around towns on vacation or in Minnesota, be like, I have a good idea, Dad, Brian.
Oh, yeah.
Well, there's a phrase here that you may not have heard, is that he didn't lick it off the street. In other words, he got it from the dad. Brian, who would...
I'm actually going to be it's actually going to be a little bit of an emotional one, and that is I would hire my dad. Unfortunately, I lost my dad in January this year, but he taught me integrity, honesty, ambition, passion, and a willingness to work. So if he was around, I'd hire him in the morning.
And his name?
Was Michael Nation.
Michael, okay. Well, our condolences on that, because that's very, very... recent.
Yes, it was hard, to be honest. But, it's like the thing about living in America now is that it's not that far away, so I can still get home regularly to see my mum. And now that we've launched in Ireland, she'll be sick of seeing me.
Well, both of you are very, very welcome back in to that great business show. And thank you, Patrick O'Shaughnessy. And again, congratulations to your great granddaughter for giving us a national park. To be honest, I'm more impressed with that than the
I know,
whiskey.
yeah.
And Brian Nation, a hero, in particular to Peter Rice, the boss here. He just thinks that he couldn't wait to meet with you, actually. So there you go. Thank you both for joining us on that great
Cheers,
business show.
Thanks for having us.
Done Deal Motors is home to Ireland's largest range of new and premium used cars. That's why you'll find cars from Audi and BMW dealerships on Done Deal. Are you looking for a 7-seater to accommodate your growing family? Maybe you're after a luxury saloon to make a statement. We have the car for you. You'll also find Ireland's largest range of electric cars to help you make the switch. Visit donedeal.ie today to start the search for your next car.
Want to increase sales, reduce overheads and provide customers with a better service? Then use Big Red Web, the easiest way to develop and maintain your website. It gives you powerful business reporting, digital marketing and automatically integrates with the award-winning Big Red cloud accounting software. It's a game changer for SME businesses. It's so good, the government gives you a €2,500 grant towards it. Big Red Web, e-commerce made simple. BigRedCloud.com/web.
All that great business show advertisers are Team GBS approved. Back them.
9 months ago, on episode 91, we had Ireland's best beard on the show. It's owned by Blessington Wicklow-based events organiser Niall O'Connor. Back then, Niall told us about how, as COVID hit, the phones at the company where he worked, Dynamic Events, just stopped, and how they dragged their business online, and things seem to be rocking, as they say, because last year they organised 850 events for 400 customers. But there's been a big change. Dynamic Events founder Richard Phelan has sold out to Niall, and they're both here in studio to explain why. Richard Phelan, Niall O'Connor, welcome to that great business show.
Great, thank you very much indeed.
That sound there is Richard Phelan. Richard, you've sold out a really interesting business. Why? You're a young man. You're 61, you told me. You're young.
Yeah. It was a very easy decision, actually, because started 27 years ago. I had a partner originally for about 7 years, and my wife jumped into the business about 20 years ago. And I identified, I think 6 years ago, that we didn't really have a successor because we've got 3 kids. 2 of them are in the music business, music producers, and my daughter's a young artist. And so they were never going to come into this business. And I also had a man in Niall who was very, very eager and hungry for involvement. So I had to say to myself, where's this going to go? Am I going to be able to sell it? It's a services business. Really, the value of it is in the product that the gear that we have and the people and the relationships. So, and I identified that Niall was the sort of guy that wasn't going to hang around if he didn't have something there to look forward to. And I was proven right and very, very lucky. So I decided that we threw it out about 6 years ago, and then about 2.5 years ago, we kind of we started nailing it down. And
Niall, you didn't tell me 9 months ago when you were on that you had already been beginning the process of taking it over, did you?
No, I didn't. Would have been kept under wraps at that time, I'd imagine. But no, I'm in a very lucky position to be where I am today. As Richard said, I joined kind of halfway through the lifetime of the business as it is today. Richard founded it in 1996.
You joined in 2010.
2010. So, and that was whatever, the business was 14 years old at that stage, and 13 years later, I'm lucky enough to be able to be the managing director and owner.
And you're taking on big responsibilities because, to go back to Richard for a second, letting go. This is your baby.
Yeah.
And I love talking to people in business about letting go of that, something that they have built. What's it like?
Letting go, I had a very interesting conversation with Grant Thornton did the deal for us. And we're very, very lucky to have a company called Curtin & Co., who are our advisors and accountants, and still Niall's accountant. And they were certainly my guardian angel in terms of bringing me through the process, because it's so letting go.
You were just going to use some words there that I was wondering. Was it difficult?
Was it difficult? Not for me. No. because I was asked by the managing partner, Grant Thornton, is this your baby? And what would happen if you got knocked out tomorrow? And I said, is it my baby? I said, of course, it's what I've created and I loved it and I've had a great time doing it. But no, I've bigger life than my job. And I got great kids and great friends and family and lovely home, and I like traveling. So I'd already made that decision. No, it wasn't. And if I got knocked over in the morning, I knew myself and Niall had been fairly well down the road, so I knew I had somebody good. He just wasn't there yet at that stage.
But you did tell me just before coming on air that you have a big bucket list that you're going to try to fill.
Yeah.
That's fine. But you're still an entrepreneur. I can smell off you that you are an entrepreneur. So you're not going away. You're not going to sit on a beach in Spain or something.
No. So you ask this. Interestingly enough, I think I walked out of the office and handed over the keys to Niall about 3 weeks ago.
How did that feel?
I felt great. I swear to God, I didn't even have a flutter. I walked out the door. I've been a long time leaving. And I told Niall this once through the phases that, yeah, sure, there was kind of an emotional piece every now and again. But then when your vision for your future well outweighs this, tie to something that you created, this was a once-off opportunity to find somebody like Niall, as incredible as he is, and to be able to secure our future. So it was just a no-brainer.
Oh, come on. You're going to do something else. I know it.
Well, the thing is that what I said to myself, I'm not going to concentrate on what I'm going to do because I just wanted to get this thing done. We've got to travel a lot. We sail a good bit as well. And we said, we're just going to enjoy this year. And I'll do something. Of course I'll do something. I have a good bit to offer still. But I don't want it to dominate my life either. But no, I'm not going to be potting plants.
Okay, Niall. It's all very well working with somebody that you trust and somebody who's been in the business for so long. And you can always, when things do go wrong, and we saw that with COVID. I mean, COVID, the story you told, was just everybody's nightmare. Just nothing. An eerie silence. But things are humming now. And I presume you've got big plans?
Yeah, well, obviously there's been massive changes in the last couple of years between coming into COVID, working through COVID, then the far side of COVID. But what the pandemic did, and I'm nearly tired of talking about it at this stage because I think everyone is. It's past tense now at this stage. But what it did was it grew our customer base massively because we went from being a domestic provider of in-person events to being this global provider of online activities and event management. So our customer base grew. So what we developed out at was we can deliver in-person events globally, but from our base in County Wicklow by using a remote host. And
tell me, because you just told me about one that you just did the other day in Sydney, Australia.
It's Sydney, Australia, yes.
That is mad. I love it. I'd love to bottle that.
But in the last, in the 2 years, of course, we were working with companies all over the world. Like on Wednesday, we've an event for Google in San Francisco, but that's a fully virtual event where everyone is on Google Meets and we've an online presenter. But the special thing about the remote hosting piece is that we can deliver the in-person experience, which trumps the online experience, of course. But we can do that now globally by using a remote host. So in Sydney, what we would have done was a company would have had a business conference in a hotel in the centre of Sydney. So they would have done their business updates and everything in the morning. They would have had lunch, and then after lunch they head back to their meeting room, and then they switch on the projector or the screen, and there is one of our event hosts explaining what they're going to do next. So for that particular one, we did what we call an urban adventure, which is like a GPS-based treasure hunt. We use an app which can be downloaded onto your phone. We delivered a briefing, and then they're in their teams and they head out around Sydney or whatever area they're in and complete team challenges. They have loads of fun. They do some trivia. They produce some short photos and videos of the fun that they're doing. And that all gets submitted back through the cloud where we score that content based on creativity and humour. So there's always a competitive element to it. So they're out and about for an hour and a half doing their activity. Then they come back to the same conference room. Bang, our remote host is back up on screen and we show back the best photos and the videos that they just produced. Creates a great atmosphere in the room and it's as if we were there with them. So we can deliver that anywhere in the world. So that was in Sydney, different time zones away. We've done it in Singapore, in Vienna, in Frankfurt, in the US. So,
so there
market.
are, and we discussed this the last time you were on, there are no borders. So that means that you can bring this business anywhere, to any size, because that fellow Richard Phelan was holding you back. You told me that, didn't you?
I don't think I did that. He certainly never held me back in any sense. But the great thing about our relationship over the years was that he would never hold me back. He allowed me that, let me off, do my own thing, make decisions, come up with ideas, implement ideas, without kind of being very protective of his business. Like, he allowed me to treat the business nearly as my own.
So you had 15 odd at the moment. Where will it be in 2 years' time? Because I presume if you're talking to either Grant Thornton or to Curtin & Co. or whoever, you've got your plan, your business plan. What is the business plan?
Well, the funny thing about business plans is that we live in a very agile world where things change dramatically. So you could plan for 2, 3, 4 years and things can change. But we've been very good at that. We've a great team of people, agile people, dynamic people, who react to these challenges. And that's what made us get through those difficult times. When something bad happens, the energy changes. Everyone's on board, and we can make things happen no matter what the challenge is. So I'm not going to plan 5 and 10 years in advance.
But you do have a vision. You must have a vision to say, when you're going off to sleep at night or whatever, say, do you know what? Yeah. If I hired another 3 people, we could go there or do that, or hire another 5 people. What's the big plan there?
Well, the big plan for us is that so our business is split pretty 50-50 between corporate team building and event management. So we run a lot of business events. They could be single-day conferences, multi-day conferences, where companies getting together. It could be a sales kickoff or a product launch or whatever it's going to be. So we've been doing that for many years, but we never really concentrated on it. So we made a decision maybe 18 months ago to concentrate on that. We promoted Lauren internally to head of events. Lauren started with us as a graduate out of event management, and she's grown very quickly into that role. So what that's allowed us to do is grow that side of the business, where companies now, they used to stumble across us via our team building to, oh, you guys do conference and events as well. Where now it's the opposite, because we're doing more and more of these events, and people are coming to us to do those, really complicated conferences where there could be ticketing, there's registration, there's AV, there's photography, there's multiple suppliers, there could be sponsors. So we've built processes and systems now to be able to facilitate that type of work, and that's where the concentration is for me anyway over the short term, because the team building is something, our bread and butter for the last 25 years. So now we're growing into one of the leading providers of the event management. So that's where.
And size, what do you think you might grow to?
I'm not really going to, plan what size we're going to grow to. The business over the years has always kind of grown very organically, where we react to demand, we go after business, and then if we feel like that we need to add 1 or 2 people, that's what we do. But it's not going to be, I'm going to go out in the morning and hire 10 people. Okay,
that's fair. Richard, what would the big lesson that you would teach Niall be? Don't do this, or do that, because obviously you've been there.
Yeah. Well, interestingly enough, I think what you had asked me earlier on is, where's the pain and where's the of leaving your something that you created. I think you're not wrong in saying that it is an emotional journey. Without a shadow of a doubt. I'm sure it's an emotional journey leaving anything at all, any business or a job that you were in. But what I had to do, though, is I had to make sure that I empowered Niall. And it just so happens, I was just talking earlier, that it's part of what I always did, because I always found it too hard to be able to micromanage people. It wasn't my style. So I needed to empower people to make their own decisions. And so that suited Niall and everybody that's in that company. And that's why there was 5 of us there over 20 years. And they make the decisions and I trust them. And we're all in it together. If they're wrong, it doesn't really matter. We'll just make a good one the next time. So in order to make sure that he doesn't have to micromanage the business, he needs to make sure that he empowers people to. And what I actually was working on for the last 2.5 years was to make myself redundant from my own company. And that is a journey that a lot of people will not like and not want to
What was the hardest part of that?
The hardest part of that, I'm not really sure because
Let me give you an example. I run my own business and I always believe my decisions and my thinking is always better than anybody else. Of course it's not.
Yeah.
But you know that thinking. So when you are trying to make yourself redundant, you are, as you say, handing over to Niall.
Yeah.
So you've got to say, Niall, your thinking is better than mine now. Something like that.
Well, it's not that it's not that the thinking is better. Is that I think Niall said I gave him a clear path and financed a lot of the things that Niall, and of course the business is where it is because of Niall today. Do you know what I mean? Because a long time ago, we allowed all of those technical products that Niall is talking about happen, and Niall was the champion of all of those. So no matter what way you say, it's definitely an emotional journey. What's the particular one? You just have to keep focused on what it is that you want, and you're able to get rid of that. But you have little wobbles every now and again. You say, am I doing the right thing? I really love this. But if you don't grab the opportunity as it's floating past, you'll regret it. And I've been talking to a lot of people who own small SMEs, and it amazed me the fact that none of them seem to have a plan in place.
That's because they love their businesses.
Yeah, but the thing about it is you've got to figure out then at the back end how you're going to get out of it and how you're going to try and monetize it and make it your lifetime, because it hasn't all been sailing. Like we've had foot and mouth, we had ash cloud, we had a recession. So this journey hasn't been plain sailing.
I love actually people who, like you, just you spill out all of that stuff because people forget. You know that we only remember back about 5 odd years.
Yeah.
Because now you reminded me of foot and mouth, the ash cloud, the this and this.
Yeah. And obviously the recession was a tough one, and that's just around when Niall came in after that business. And I think a lot of people were exposed. Thankfully, we hadn't got a whole lot of loans or anything, but we didn't have enough of reserves to be able to keep us going for a long, long time. Thankfully, we got through it, and from that moment on, we just kept building reserves, and that was the whole key to it.
Niall, I think that he's been beaten out of it. I think, hasn't he? Doesn't he sound like it?
Yeah, no, I don't think so. No, certainly not. He's just allowed me to take the reins like that. So.
Which is cool. Now, final question, both of you. You know what I'm going to ask you because I remember asking you before, but I can't remember what you said. Niall, what or who would you hire in a heartbeat?
Who would I hire in a heartbeat? Well, I think it was here 9 months ago I said Jurgen Klopp. He could be out of a job soon, who knows? So maybe I'll stick with him. No, but other than that, I have to say that the people we do employ are just fantastic. It's not just me, it's not just Richard. All these things have to happen.
No, you can't go for the easy option. You have to give me a name.
A name. Well, I'll have to stick with Jurgen Klopp then.
Okay, well, I'm not going to start arguing with you. Actually, last week somebody nominated me and I said, oh, no, that's not allowed. But then again, I said, no, my ego's okay. So I said, no, I'll take a bit of that. Richard Phelan, who would you take as your heart in a heartbeat?
An individual, yeah. I think
you can have a few if you want.
Okay, well, I think
Niall's been here before.
Well, I think Johnny Sexton's probably has to be on top of the list.
But I tell you one thing, he'd put manners on you.
But with that's what I'd be afraid of. So it's probably going to be Mack Hansen. Because we have a lot of fun in our. We did have a lot. I had a lot of fun working with our guys, and it's funny. I always think it was one of those jobs that you come home really, really happy because you get a lot of, we used to call it We Are Fab file, but now it's CSAT reports, customer satisfaction, and they always just tell us how great we are. So that means a lot, doesn't it?
It does.
Yeah.
Have you actually quit now? Are you going into the office?
No, absolutely not.
You're gone.
And I would not have liked to have been around as, doing another 6 months or 12 months. So that's why I've been leaving for 2.5 years.
I understand. But that you had to lock the door for one last time. The following Monday, did you say, gotta go into work, and your wife, who Sarah said, no, you're not going to work?
Not at all. No. I've got a lot of things that I like doing. Yeah.
Listen, I will be back to you, Niall, to find out about how you have grown this business in the next couple of years. So thanks again for joining us both, Niall O'Connor and Richard Phelan of Dynamic Events. And if anybody wants, you are actually going to start hiring, I think, are you, Niall?
Well, there was always, opportunities at our place. And as we get into the season, yes, we'll definitely be looking.
And you're looking for young creatives?
Just looking for great personalities. They don't have to be from any particular expertise or backgrounds, just nice people
or
good with people.
Okay. Guys, thanks so much for joining us on That Great Business Show.
Thanks for having us.
Thanks for having us. Thanks a million.
Done Deal Motors is home to Ireland's largest range of new and premium used cars. That's why you'll find cars from Audi and BMW dealerships on Done Deal. Are you looking for a 7-seater to accommodate your growing family? Maybe you're after a luxury saloon to make a statement. We have the car for you. You'll also find Ireland's largest range of electric cars to help you make the switch. Visit donedeal.ie today to start the search for your next car.
De facto shaving oil, the world's best shaving oil. Made in Mayo, sold worldwide.
All That Great Business Show advertisers are Team GBS approved. Back them.
And that's it from That Great Business Show, episode 133. 45 minutes of business insights and inspiration. Thanks to our sponsor, donedeal.ie. And that is the place to find your next car, new or second-hand. And please do take our survey so we can find out how better we can serve you. You'll find it on the website, thatgreatbusinessshow.com. And one lucky listener is going to get a prize of a month's worth of advertising on That Great Business Show. It takes less than 5 minutes, so do it right now to be in with a chance to win. You can also check our LinkedIn page. Keep in touch with us there regarding guest suggestions, and I think we have over 10,000 people chatting to us on LinkedIn these days. If you would like to advertise with us, don't be shy, because we are not. Contact us as usual, LinkedIn, and we record at the Dublin South Podcast Studios, where Mark Mines of Whiskey McGrath is today's sound engineer. Later, Neil Horner will add his spit and polish and maybe ice in a slice to make us the best sounding podcast on the planet. So from me, Conall O'Moran, Míle buchas for listening, agus slán Tommy.